GM. Welcome back to Web3 Academy, your trusted source to capitalize on the next big phase of the internet. Don't get caught in the hype cycle. I'm Jay Bird, joined by my co-host Kyle Reedhead, and we're carving a path for doers to confidently build and invest in Web3. My friends, hello. As we told you at the roll-up last week, we were going to do an episode on AI, and this episode is all about, is AI going to take all of our jobs? Honestly, it's a pretty legit question to be asking right now in 2023. And so that's what we're going to discuss. We're going to talk about, are they going to take the jobs? If AI is going to take jobs, what jobs might it take? If it's going to create new jobs, what jobs might it create? And then we may just talk about kind of the long-term game here of what's really happening with AI, where this might go when we get into ASI. So we're currently at AGI, and then we're going to get into ASI. I'll explain what those are in just a second. And then we'll get into how you can stay ahead of this whole craze that's happening right now. Now, this episode is called Web3 Debates. This is what we're doing now on Tuesdays, but I don't know if this one will be a debate. Jay and I may agree, we may disagree. Let's see where this goes, but we're going to dive deep into AI and get you caught up to speed on all things that you need to know right now to stay on the forefront, as we usually do here at Web3 Academy. Before we get into that, let's take a quick second to hear from our sponsors.
The future of social media is here, and that future lives in Web3 on top of Lens protocol. Web2 social platforms are broken and ripe for disruption. You see, the epicenter of social media is the creators, and yet they are the most neglected. Web2 platforms like Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram are all essentially robbing creators of their worth. Creators are a new type of entrepreneur, forming new types of businesses. Yet with Web2 platforms, creators don't own their content or the profiles, and that's their product and business. Instead, they are tied to the platforms they choose to create on. Well, just like how crypto is freeing us from banks, Web3 is freeing us from these centralized platforms. On Lens protocol, creators own their content, own their profile, and even their social graph and followers in the form of NFTs. This allows you to move freely from one social application to another with your content, profile, and followers moving along with you. Lens protocol enables self-sovereignty for your social graph and interoperability across the internet. At Web3 Academy, we believe this is the future of social, and that's why we've partnered with Lens to ensure that the path of social media is heading in the right direction. Visit lens.xyz to learn more today.
What if I told you that industry pioneers from flagship Web3 brands such as Consensus, Polygon, Binance, Unstoppable Domains, Ledger, and Uniswap will all meet up in one place this summer? You don't want to miss this. I'm talking about the Epic Web3 conference taking place in beautiful Lisbon on the 9th of June with over 20 curated talks, speed consultations with Web3 experts, networking sessions with investors, and even the opportunity to raise funds. This conference has it all, and you'll get the tools you need to succeed in this industry. Plus, we at Web3 Academy will attend and host a community meetup with you and the others from our community before the main event. So come along, meet us, network, and start building alongside leading Web3 innovators. We can't wait to meet you. Remember, Lisbon, Portugal, 9th of June. We've got a 15% discount for you, but ticket prices go up every few days, so get your tickets today by using the link in the show notes. Enter the promo code Web3Academy15 to secure your spot. Or if you become a pro member, you can get an even bigger discount. So go pro today, and we'll see you in Lisbon, Portugal on the 9th of June at the Epic Web3 conference. Welcome back, friends. Okay, let's set the stage a little bit on artificial intelligence and what the heck is going on here. Jay and I haven't really had a chance to really outline our view on what's going on here. So AI has been around for a while, for decades at this point, actually. But up until just recently, AI has always been more specific to a certain task. So we had AI that could play chess and it would beat everybody at chess. We had AI that could pass certain tests and things, but it learned specifically about those tests. And so we had very specific AI always. Now what we have with the launch of OpenAI and ChatGPT for really the first time, publicly anyway, to the world, is what's called an AGI. So basically it's like general artificial intelligence, okay? And essentially what this is artificial intelligence that is as smart as, essentially, a human. And meaning that it doesn't just have one purpose, like I know how to be the best at chess. It means I know everything. I know all of the things. Basically, an AI of this sort, and the way that they trained OpenAI is it's read every single book in the world. It's scoured and read everything on the internet. So it knows about everything that's happened since the beginning of time almost, which is pretty crazy. And then not only that though, not only does it understand it, but it can also then like respond and create opinions, I guess, thoughts, and basically be able to come up with things based off of other knowledge that it knows. And so you can prompt it or ask it questions and it can just respond to you immediately. It is a pretty amazing invention. I would say that. It has massive implications to the world. Right now, we know this as ChatGPT, which is mainly text-based, where you can ask it something and it responds in text. But there are many, many, many apps that are launching right now across everything. Canva and Adobe and pretty much every single application right now is launching their AI version. And it allows you, the AIs, to create images. It allows them to create videos, allows them to create B-roll. It can write copy. It can do math. It can write code. The list goes on and on and on what these things are capable of. You can book your flights. It's pretty incredible. And just recently, and we actually just put out a headline in this in our newsletter, they're actually now creating plugins that can attach into ChatGPT. And so now not only can it like have a conversation with you or like create something, it can go and execute that. So connect into like Zapier, for example, and it could write a tweet and then go and publish the tweet on Twitter. So like this thing is going to be able to do so much, and it's happening very, very, very fast.
I mean, which is super scary, right? I got my shades on because, the AI sun is bright and you cannot get out of the sunshine right now. That ray is everywhere, all over the world. Everybody's talking about it, and it's bringing up the question, is AI coming for our jobs? Is AI going to take all of our jobs? Are robots going to take all of our jobs? Today, we're debating more AI than we are robots, but that same sentiment is being expressed all over the world right now. And if you're scared, we're here to ease your troubles, ease your pain.
I tweeted out an image yesterday from a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, who just all of a sudden she sends me a message. She just goes, "Kyle, do you use ChatGPT and do we trust artificial intelligence?" She goes, "I just read a book where artificial intelligence got a little too intelligent and started killing a lot of people." You can understand my hesitation. I started dying laughing.
Let's start with the question we're debating today. Kai, is AI going to take our jobs?
Yes, 100% is going to take our jobs. It's going to take a lot of jobs. That is the answer. It is definitely going to take many, many jobs. And what's interesting about this one is that it's going to take a lot of white collar jobs. Usually technology gets rid of blue collar jobs, like people in factories, right? For, I don't want to say the first time, because the internet did some of this as well, but really at first time at scale, it's going to take white collar jobs like accountants and finance analysts and mathematicians and
administrative analysts,
administration, like so many things of white collar jobs. And that is pretty crazy. Now, I say yes, and that might seem like, why is this guy so pumped about this thing where it's going to take everyone's jobs? Because my take on this is that it's going to take a lot of jobs, but it's going to create many new jobs and new opportunities. And I think this is the thing. There's a lot of people sounding alarm right now that, hey, AI is going to take a bunch of jobs. And by the way, we're not going to get into the conversation really of is it going to kill everybody? That's a
no, we're not having that conversation.
But we will at one point, I think, because you don't have to worry about that just yet. But for now, we're going to talk about jobs. And listen, here's my take, and then I'll let you take over, Jay. Technology, this has been said forever, right? Every time there's a new technology, everyone goes, oh my God, it's going to take everyone's jobs. We shouldn't do this. This is bad. It's bad for the world, blah, blah, blah. We said this about the wheel. We said this about machines and computers. We said this about like so many different technologies, the radio, you know what I mean? All this stuff. And yes, every single one of these technologies, including the internet, took many jobs, but they also created many jobs as well. And so I think, when I just look at, we are living in a world of more technology than we've ever had. And yet we have sustainable low unemployment, right? So just right there already tells you it doesn't matter that the internet came along and took a bunch of people's jobs, because it created new ones like Uber drivers, right? Or Uber Eats drivers, for example. That job did not exist until the internet came along. So I think, yes, it's going to take many, and a lot of things are going to get disrupted, and it's going to happen very fast, but there's going to be so many opportunities, and that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I think there's a stat that keeps being put out there, which is from a 2020 report by the World Economic Forum that estimated that AI will replace 85 million jobs by 2025. And you just see this everywhere. But there's a second part of this stat that just doesn't seem to be mentioned, which is that they also estimated that AI would create around 97 million new jobs. So yes, many jobs will be displaced because AI is faster, cheaper, and quite frankly, more efficient because it makes less mistakes than humans do at repetitive tasks. It makes sense. Humans are meant to do repetitive tasks. We get tired, we get brain fog, we can't focus anymore. AI doesn't deal with that issue. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't get brain fog. It can just keep doing the same thing. But it will create more new jobs, is what the World Economic Forum believes. I believe that it'll create a similar amount of new jobs. Let me also just mention another stat too, because I think another important thing, then we'll get into Kai talking about what type of jobs it will replace. But back in 2014, The Economist did a report where they estimated that AI would wipe out 47%. They actually said automation would wipe out. I should clarify. They didn't use the category AI, used the category automation, would wipe out 47% of all jobs by 2034. And that was really estimating a lot around like taxi drivers and delivery drivers, like self-driving cars and long-haul truckers. Like a lot of it was basically that all of the transportation industry would be gone because it would all be self-driving. And nearly a decade later, is about 10 years ago this report was done, we're nowhere near those forecasted numbers. Mm-hmm. So I think there's also this question and this debate of the pace of change. And we weren't at this rapid pace of change previously. What is very interesting about artificial general intelligence, which, as you said, we're at that point, or are we at that point? I'm not sure. You and I were talking before we started hit record. We're not even sure if ChatGPT is a general intelligence or not. Sam Altman's not sure. Like everyone's trying to figure that out. But we're definitely at that point of rapid change. And that is something that makes people very uncomfortable when you have rapid change. So it shows the need that, yes, AI is changing rapidly. So sorry, folks who like to be comfortable and sit at home and don't like rapid change. Now's the time when you got to jump on the horse and you got to change rapidly. Otherwise, you will fall behind.
Doers got to do. Right now, if you're a doer, this is now's the time to do. I'll tell you that right now. And I've been doing a lot. What jobs do you think AI is going to take? Let's list some of those off to help the listeners.
Yeah, okay. So it's going to take jobs that are heavily reliant on repetitive and routine tasks. So it's going to take data entry jobs. It's going to take customer service jobs, accounting and bookkeeping jobs, legal jobs. Now, let me be clear though. I think one thing about all of these jobs that it's going to take is people assume that there is no longer humans involved. And that is not the case. So customer service is a great example. Even though AI is going to take a lot of customer service jobs, a lot of customers don't like chatting to a robot. They feel uncomfortable. You don't get that same emotional intelligence. So most companies that are using AI in customer service have humans behind the AI that are training it and teaching it how to be more human and helping it, and then jumping in some instances and saying, oh, you need a human to help out here. So I think
most people won't know that they're talking to an AI versus humans.
They won't know that they're talking to an AI, but they also, I just think that there's this, at least in the short term and maybe forever, is there will be jobs created behind the AI.
Definitely.
That need to support the AI until it gets to that point. Like legal is another great example. We're not going to replace all lawyers with AI. We're going to replace the basic contract that is like, literally it's the same contract every time, and an AI can just write that contract, which is just going to allow entrepreneurs to move quicker because they can just enter faster, less barriers, less friction.
When I think of what jobs AI is going to take, I think more digitally native. This because that's kind of who I am, and I think more in the creator economy. And I think that if you're a copywriter right now or you write content, you should be very, I don't want to say scared, but you should be using AI, which we're going to talk about that at the end. But you are definitely going to be disrupted if you write anything. If you write whatsoever, you're disrupted already. Mm-hmm. And that's the first use case of this. If you are a graphic designer, disrupted. If you are a musician, disrupted. If you are a video editor, disrupted. So content creators, like all this stuff, I think is going to completely change the dynamics of this. In some ways good, and I think there's a lot to learn from this, but definitely it's going to completely disrupt all of those different areas.
I've got to debate this one quickly. So I agree that it will disrupt and displace creators who are doing repetitive creation. So if you're a graphic designer and let's say you work at Airbnb, a large company, and you're a junior graphic designer. So you're not creating new brand assets, you're just repeating the brand, right? Like there's a very clear brand guideline and you just have to like make social media posts out of it. Yeah, you're done. Like you are definitely done. But the head brand person, who is the creative person who's like thinking forward about where the brand goes and what it should look like next year or 10 years from now, that person is not replaced by
Agreed.
AI, right? The same with music. Like AI is not going to create new music that we've never heard about before. It'll just create more EDM that, sounds the exact same.
No.
You think so?
It's created new colors that we've never seen before. It will 100% create new music that we've never heard before. 100%. And it will create better music that we are more addicted to. 100%. I guarantee it. The thing to understand about artificial intelligence is that it knows everything we know, plus more. Okay, we haven't read every book in the world yet. It has more information and more ability to compute that information and process that information than we do. And it also knows, so for example, when musicians create music, they're trying to think of like what makes people click, especially pop music, that kind of stuff, like what gets people like addicted to it and want to listen to it. It's going to learn that and know that more than anyone, right? Because it can understand that more than anyone. It also understands emotional stuff. You said emotional intelligence, it gets that too, because emotions are just a reaction to something, right? It's just a formula in the human body, in the human brain, sorry. And so it understands that better than we do. It will learn, especially when it gets to ASI, which is artificial superintelligence, when it becomes much smarter than us, it will be able to understand our emotions better than we can understand our emotions, which by the way, humans are not good at understanding other humans' emotions. It's actually one of the terrible things we're really bad at. It takes a lot of practice at, yet an artificial intelligence will get that easily. It'll be able to understand the tone that we're writing in and the way that we're asking questions. So I think it'll become way more emotionally intelligent than we will.
In prepping for this episode, I obviously used ChatGPT to prep for this episode. And I asked ChatGPT, what jobs are not at risk of being replaced? And it said jobs that require high levels of creativity, critical thinking, and emotional intelligence.
Well, so I think...
Was it playing me?
No. So I think, especially right now, the way that the AI is, like, it needs the creative or the high strategy person to like get that output. What you input, and we'll talk about this in a second, what you input is what you will get as output, right? So the better you input, the better output you will get, which means the more creative you are, the more creative that you can express your prompts to the AI, the more creative it's going to be in the output. So like you are right that like the creative people, the high strategy people, they're the ones that will achieve the most from this. So anyway, let's talk about that in a second. Let's get through what's the last point we want to touch on.
Yeah, you just kind of brought it up actually. What are the jobs that we believe AI will create in the future? So here's the trouble. They're not the same as the jobs that it will displace. And that's where I think people get scared, right? Because, and this is what has happened over and over again in the past, right? Bank tellers have been replaced by ATMs. Not all of them, obviously, there's still some bank tellers, but a lot of bank tellers got replaced by ATMs. Those bank tellers weren't at the same time the engineers who made the ATMs, right? It's not like they could all of a sudden shift their career that simply. Grocery cashiers are being replaced by self-checkout, right? Blockbuster retail people were replaced by Netflix, right? That same person, a grocery checkout or a Blockbuster retail person, is not the same engineer that's going to go make Netflix or go make self-checkout machines, right? So
a good way to explain this to help people understand is like, for example, back in the day, we used to have factories that were all people, right? And they would make whatever product or service that they were making, right? But then machines came in and it got rid of a lot of those jobs. But then what happened is we created way more products. And so what you needed now is more salespeople to sell these products. You needed more creative people to like think of new products. Now that we have machines, we can make them much cheaper. So we can make way more things, right? You need people to build those machines that didn't exist previously. Then you also have, all of a sudden, people are now buying these things at mass and they're getting delivered. So now you need people to work in factories, not to build the products, but to ship the products and to stock the products and to shelve the products, right? So like it just shifted So those who used to work in the factories to build them, now we're shelving and shipping them, right? Now, of course, machines, robotics are going to take over that. And then there'll be a next thing for them. It just shifts is what Jay's getting at here. And I think that's exactly it. So, okay, AI, what does it create? Anything you can think of?
Yeah. So data scientists or AI scientists is almost what I want to call them. Machine learning engineers, a lot of engineers, prompt engineers, like you mentioned prompt. Prompt is a really interesting one that I think we'll get into of how you can stay ahead of the curve. Computer vision engineers, AI safety, I think is a really interesting one. Like there will be a need for AI governance and AI safety. And we're not going to go down that rabbit hole today. We talked a bit about that on the roll up last week with Elon Musk's petition, but those are just a few of the jobs I think it'll create.
Yeah, for me, the way that I look at it is when you have new technologies that are this big, just like the internet did and machines did, it makes starting a business much cheaper, right? And a lot less friction. It makes it easier to start a new business. And so when the internet was created, all of a sudden, there were millions of new businesses that were created in terms of drop shipping and, influencer marketing and creator economy and newsletters and courses and all these things that didn't exist before the internet. And those were very you could get in and start any of those businesses with basically nothing, right? It costs you nothing to start a website. You don't even need to buy the product when you're drop shipping. So anyone could do it, right? And so those who were doers could come in, and the internet minted millions of millionaires, millions of new entrepreneurs, just not the entrepreneur we think of where you build this big corporate company. It was a very different style. And man, the amount of businesses, we run an agency working with these people. These businesses are doing amazing and they have small teams and it's great. They've created tons of jobs from that. And so I think AI does this even further. Now to start a business, especially let's say you want to do a creator economy, like you want to create content on, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, you want to create a newsletter. You used to need a writer, you needed someone to edit your video, someone like a graphic designer. You don't need any of that anymore. Now I can do that for free with ChatGPT and Midjourney and whatever else, some of these apps. And so it's even easier for me to start a business. And so what that means is new types of businesses will form that previously you weren't able to start that business because it was too expensive. Now it becomes very much cheaper. And so new styles of businesses will be created. And then those new businesses, whatever those things are, will then be able to hire more people, right? So I just think all this does is accelerate entrepreneurialism. And I think just more entrepreneurs are created. So maybe jobs is the wrong thing, right? Maybe it's just more businesses are created, more new businesses are created, right? And you're not I don't consider myself as having a job because I run a company. That's what I see is going to happen from this. But so I think it's going to create jobs and it's going to create just so many businesses. What those businesses are, I don't know.
It's a really interesting example to compare it to the creator economy. Like there was no creator economy pre-internet, and the creator economy was created with hundreds of millions of people in it now having sustainable lifestyle, sustainable income. What is going to be that version with AI? We don't know yet, but that is a really interesting question.
Yeah, I don't know what that's going to be, but it'll be very, very interesting to find out.
I think as well, the other really interesting thing, and this kind of gets into our next point, is I think about how in Chinese writing, the word for crisis is often referred to as, there's two characters in the word for crisis. One which means danger and the other one which means opportunity. It's actually not the literal translation, but close enough. Point being, whenever there's a crisis, so if you're sitting there at home and you feel like you're in a crisis, I'm going to lose my job to AI, right? What does that mean? Yes, it means there's danger, and be aware of that danger. Don't ignore it. Yes, there is danger, but it also means that there's opportunity. We're at that inflection point, that turning point where there is a big opportunity that's coming, huge. And those who jump on it and those who have a plan and stick to it, those are going to be the people that become the next millionaires, like the creator economy created with the internet.
Well, the easiest way to explain this is so if you were hiring 10 years ago, the common question, or the answer you were looking for in an interview was for someone to say, when you ask them, if you don't know something, what do you do? If they didn't say, I'm going to Google it, you're like, okay, you're out. Do you know what I mean? So, which means a lot of younger people could get jobs as a result of that because they were like, oh, I'll just go to Google. And you're like, sick. But then you try to hire like a 60-year-old and they're like, I don't know, I'll ask you. And I'm like, don't do that.
You can pay for me to go to school for 4 years.
Yeah, right. So that was an opportunity for inexperienced people to get jobs that otherwise they shouldn't have had because they could just go research at lightning speed, right? And that was a huge, so for those that did it, those that were first into Google and first to like use the internet, man, they could get jobs that they just had no business getting, right? They could leapfrog those who were going to school. And so AI is the same thing. I look at it right now as someone who runs a marketing agency. And basically what I've done, and Jay and I have done, is we've instructed everyone on our team to learn to use ChatGPT and AI because it is going to allow us to scale our business to a whole other level. I mean, 3 months ago, we were in a crisis of not having enough people on our team that could write good copy for our agency. And so we were like, shit, should we hire more? Like, we don't really want to hire more right now because we can't even get more clients at our current, like, we're kind of maxed out. What do we do? And that was 3 months ago. And now we're like, we don't even have a copywriter. We don't need a copywriter anymore. It's all AI, right? And so the opportunity here is, look, if I'm ever in an interview for anyone now, I'm going to make sure that their answer is I use ChatGPT because I know that they are a superhuman, right? And this is what I told our team was like, look, those of you that are account managers or client leads, we call them, they deal with clients. And then what they typically do is they're the high level, they have the strategy. They're thinking, okay, here's how this whole thing's going to work. Here's the campaigns we're going to do, the marketing, the branding, whatever. And then they go and they prompt the others on the team, the copywriters, the graphic designers, the video editors, the branders, whatever. They prompt those humans to go and complete tasks. And then they come back and they go, here's the copy. And you're like, okay, that's pretty good. Now go change this, blah, blah, blah. And that's what they do. Well, now it's like, hey, you don't prompt humans anymore. You just prompt AIs. It makes you think of it. Don't drop bombs, drop acid or whatever. Don't prompt humans, prompt AI. Because what happens is now the account manager who has the strategy is now an account manager, plus they have the ability to execute copywriting, graphic design, video editing, et cetera, and all at lightning speed. So that one human becomes a superhuman. What I could have done with 4 people, I could have do with 1. And so those that are able to think strategy, think that high level and be creative and prompt the AI the right way, they are going to be so freaking efficient on the level of like, well, orders of magnitude more than on those who were like able to Google. Do you know what I mean? So that is the opportunity for anyone right now. Most of these jobs aren't going away. We still need graphic designers, still need all this stuff, but you need to know how to get ChatGPT or these other apps to do it for you because you will do it so much faster. So you can get me 100 images for ads that I'm going to run within a couple minutes instead of a couple months. The efficiencies here are unbelievable. And so my biggest thing is do not get scared of stuff. Go learn to prompt with it. Go learn to communicate with it. And what's my biggest advice when you're communicating with ChatGPT or any AI is to be as open and vulnerable as possible, which is hilarious. You think about a relationship, this is like a relationship.
How you should, yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Like this is actually what you need to do. And I've noticed when I see others prompt, like they're trying to just be very short and sweet with it, like just quick and just like one sentence. You need to give very in-depth prompts. You need to tell it exactly what you're thinking. And the more that you explain that's in your head, the better it will output that for you. And it'll be exactly what you want. But if you're very short in what you're saying to it, the output you're going to get is going to be pretty weak. So it's all about over communicating with the AIs. That's how you get the best output.
Which is ironic because that's also how you get the best output out of a relationship. Over communicate is always the answer. Let me just break down what Kai just said. We like to say here at Web3 Academy, in order to succeed in the future, in order to capitalize on the opportunity, you need to have a plan. Okay, so what's the AI plan? Step 1, understand, improve your understanding. You've actually just done that if you're finishing this episode with us right now, which we only have a few minutes left in. So well done. You've completed step 1. You didn't even know it. You're ahead. Okay. Step 2 is start to use it. If you have not downloaded ChatGPT, get it. If you have another type of job, maybe your job isn't in language, maybe you don't use copy or writing very often, go find an AI in your job, whether it's graphic design, whatever your job is, find an AI and start to use it. And as Kai said, big lesson in step 2, big point of focus is over communicate. Give it a shit ton of direction and then learn based on what it gives you, how you will get better at giving it direction. And then that leads into step 3, which is invest your time and your money and start to build with it. So take a part of your job and completely outsource it. Take one task that you do every week and now give it to AI. You've built a little system. You've built a process. You no longer have to do that. and now you save time or you make more money.
Think of AI just like managing people, okay? The idea of when you bring on people and you hire people, it's to delegate tasks that you've already done. You've mastered it. You don't want to do it anymore. You give it to someone else. That's what hiring used to be about. Then you had to manage that person, make sure that they're doing the best job they can. You had to train them, etc. Most people realize when you have never delegated before, it's hard to delegate. You don't realize what you can delegate. Once you do it once, you're like, oh, okay, wait, I could also delegate this. And then you do it again, and it like becomes this ripple effect, right? And all of a sudden you're like, wow, I can start hiring so many people and delegate so much that you had this mental block before. The same thing I noticed is happening with people with AI is you're like, I don't know what I could use it for. Once you finally use it with one and you see the output that comes from it, you're like, oh, okay. Then you're like, well, wait, maybe I could try this thing. And then you can try this thing and this. It's kind of like that ripple effect. So keep that in mind. The last piece of advice I'm going to give is specifically with ChatGPT, when it is an AGI, you don't just give it input and it outputs. It learns, and it learns over time. And so you can even ask it, how do I teach you to give me the best outputs? And it will say, teach me just like you teach a human. So meaning like, show me examples of things you've done in the past so that I can replicate that. Then give me feedback on what I gave you, right? Tell me what was good, what wasn't good. Point out the reasons why you do certain things in the way that you do it so it can understand that. And then also, once it's done it, probably you're going to take, let's say it's an article or something. You're going to need to go and write more of it and prove it, make sure it's in your personality and the way that you write, etc. Go then give it back to them and say, here's the end result. So then it can learn. And now the next time you go to get it to that same task, it's going to be way better, just like a human. Just like when you hire a human, it's the same thing with AI. That's the mindset you need to have. And this thing will change your entire world. That's my advice.
I love it. Okay, well, we got to put a wrap on this episode because, as always, Kai and I have so many thoughts. We talked a little bit about artificial superintelligence. We're going to put a pin in that one. We don't have time today, folks. Okay. In the future episode, we'll get into what happens when AGI, artificial general intelligence, moves to the next phase, which is artificial superintelligence. I don't know how far away we are from that, but we've got some time. We're not there yet. That's the point at which it gets beyond human abilities and starts to get smarter than us and starts to create things that we didn't even think of, which gets into a whole other conversation.
Orders of magnitude smarter than us. Yeah. Not just a little bit smarter than us, like Mark Zuckerberg smarter than us. Or Elon Musk smarter than us. It's like when you compare ants' brains to our brains, that's where you compare our brains to the AI. That's where it's going to go. At that point, our jobs might be fucked, but let's end it there. I don't know what's going to happen at that point. So we will have an episode of that at some point.
But for right now, here's what you need to know. As with every past major tech shift, there's winners and there's losers. And so it's so important for you as an individual, for organizations, for your company to adapt. Now is the time when you need to jump into the sandbox. You got to get your hands dirty and you've got to adapt, and you'll be all good. You'll stay ahead of the curve along with us.
And sign up to the Web3 Academy newsletter because we're giving weekly tips on AI in there. w3academy.io. See it in the newsletter as well. Friends, thank you so much. That was another great Web3, not debate because you didn't really debate. Web3 agreement is what we're calling it moving forward.
Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Web3 Academy. We hope this helps you along your Web3 journey. And if it does, please share this episode and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Nothing in this podcast was financial advice. Crypto and Web3 can be risky. You can literally lose it all. In fact, if you invest on account of what we say, you probably will lose it all. So don't do that. In all honesty, the point of this podcast is to remove the noise of markets and price and focus on utility and implementation anyway. So you should not take any of this as financial advice. Thank you, friends, and see you in the next one.